Hey there friends, welcome back to my garden. It has been a busy couple of months with a lot of exciting things going on, and I know I keep saying that, but today finally is what I'm calling the big reveal. And this is part of a Florida friendly landscaping incentive program, and it was a grant that I was able to get through Pinellas County where I live, that converting a section of my turf lawn into water friendly Florida appropriate plants, things that would thrive, that it's the right plant in the right place, that it doesn't need excessive fertilizer. I'm not using exclusively native plants, but I'm using a combination of plants that are native to our area as well as those that are just well suited to this climate that we have, because we've got so many extremes. We've got a lot of heat, we've got a lot of rain in the hurricane season, which, June is wrapping up. This is just the beginning of true hurricane season here, and so it's supposed to be a big one. So we need plants that can handle a lot of water, and yet with the heat that we deal with, they also need to handle drying out. So there's some plants that are well adapted to all of those conditions and others that just aren't. So I want to walk you through the whole process of how we selected the plants that I'm using, and how we got from square one to a beautiful area that I am just so excited to get to enjoy every day and to get to share with all of you. Let me turn the camera around. I'll show you some of what we came up with. One of the first things I really wanted to focus on was creating a space that would be very welcoming and inviting. And we had put together kind of a plan of different plants in the landscape in this section of the yard that it was a beautiful arrangement of plants, lots of vertical layering, a good assortment of colors, and just a very good variety for some biodiversity in this yard. And it just looked very formal. It looked very much like, okay, look but don't touch. And that is not me at all. I wanted inviting. I wanted you to come and just feel welcome to sit and stay. So one of the focal points of this garden is the bench and the swing that I have here. And this is something that I purchased online, and it was Overstock, Bed Bath & Beyond. And I assembled it. My husband helped a little bit. And it's the nice treated cedar wood that'll stand up to being outdoors in the elements and just kind of get better and better with age. Now you'll notice on the side of it that I've got a bamboo post and then some netting. That's just some simple bird netting. And growing on that netting and just thriving already is what's called a sky blue cluster vine. That is one that is heat and drought tolerant, that is very well suited for our Florida climate. And that will grow up and over that arch, that pergola, and it will create more and more shade as it matures and just really takes hold across that the slats of the top, and it'll fill in some of those gaps. This part of the yard, I'm out here kind of early evening, because the sun comes up behind where I'm standing here, and then eventually it moves up over the house. And so our house is north facing. This is on the east side, and it gets so hot over here, and having that shade at least by midday is a huge benefit. That if I'm out here working in the garden, that I can sit down and just enjoy a little break on the swing with the cover of that lattice top, but then especially as those vines really fill in and kind of fill it out. So that is one of the first plants to highlight here. And then I've got another path on the other side, and we did pine straw for the paths and arborist mulch. If you're not familiar with Chip Drop, it's a website where you can sign up to request arborist mulch. And it's just when a tree service cuts a tree, they shred the scraps of it, and they have to pay to dump it. But if you're willing to take a truckload of it, they will give it to you for free. So I had a big truckload full, and it served for all of this planting area, and then as well around the perimeter of my yard on this side. And I'll get to that in a minute of why I chose to create that perimeter. But with the pine straw on that side, It goes up to a rain barrel that I've installed, and you can see the chain coming down from a temporary gutter, getting new gutters put up this week. But then the second pathway goes to that bench, and it creates 3 unique planting zones. This first zone is definitely butterfly friendly. We've got a good native milkweed plant, and it is just thriving, and I see butterflies on it pretty much every time that I'm out here. I don't see them right this moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if they show up before I'm done filming. And just look at the variety of colors, the bright deep orange, almost a red color, and then some lighter oranges, almost a peachy kind of color on a few of the blooms. Lots of different butterflies and pollinators, and even hummingbirds are attracted to those colors of plants, and it will help to propagate and to just help all of my plants that are here to continue to thrive as the pollinators get cozy, comfortable here. And eventually I want to put some vegetable planters and things, more like a I just had the word in my mind, but the foodscaping, where you've got a combination of vegetable, other plants that you are growing for your kitchen use, and then things that are pretty, things that are integrated pest management, where you plant a certain kind of thing, even dill and parsley, some types of onions and cilantro, that it discourages the pests from taking hold in your good plants. And so you've got those kind of sacrifice plants that you put out on the edges. Oh goodness, there was a beautiful dragonfly just a second ago. I am so easily distracted out here because every time I come out, there are so many different types of living things all around. Hopefully I'll get a chance to catch him on the video before I'm done. So where he was at, this is an olive tree, and this one will in fact bear fruit in our area, and that olives will have to be cured, but it's grown without pesticides, without chemicals, so it will be safe to consume, natural farm olive tree. And this is the Europea, and it's actually that Spanish variety that's marked and hardy to 14 Fahrenheit. We're not going to get anywhere close to that, but I don't expect it to produce anything in the first year or two, but hopefully before very much longer, it will start to put out some beautiful fruit. And then as it continues, it's going to provide a lot of shade for the house. And how I was talking about the heat of the sun in the morning up through midday, that it's going to really shield this side of the house from absorbing a lot of that heat. So back here, again, with the foodscaping, I've got some oregano and some rosemary. The little flowery thing back there is marking the oregano so it doesn't get stepped on. It's just tiny for now, but it will grow and thrive. I'll be able to trim it and use it and cook with it, and just nothing like having those fresh herbs in the garden. Please excuse any weeds. It has been raining so much. I have not been out here to clean up the weeds just recently, but hey, that's part of garden life. So this is a Dune sunflower. Again, a very Florida friendly plant. I think that one's native. I should have looked these up before I started the video, but I was just so excited to get this perfect time of day where the light is just gorgeous. Got a beach verbena, obviously very appropriate for our coastal area here. And then some just garden sage. This is the kind that you would cook with. So if you wanted to make a nice sausage, lots of different things that you can use sage to cook in. And then some people use it just for its aromatic value. So beautiful plants, and they will just add to the biodiversity of this whole space. So that's the first or last, depending on the perspective you want to take, of the garden zones. And then this next zone is the musical zone. And I say that because I'm a violin player and teacher and play a few other instruments as well, but violin is one of my favorites. And if you happen to know this tree, this, when I saw that it was Florida friendly, had to have it. It is called a fiddlewood, and it is obviously a fiddle, a violin, so cheesy but appropriate to what I do. And then surrounding it here, these cute, tall, yellow flowers are called rosinweed. And they are so good for pollinators in our area. They are so good just for the general ecosystem here. And they're very hardy. They're very drought tolerant. They can handle the salt, the moisture, all of the conditions that we get that full range of here. Now, in behind my little music zone, I've got some Black-Eyed Susans, and that does happen to be a song as well. If you haven't heard it, it's kind of cute. Up there, I'll come back to that in a second because I want to get a close-up shot. But back in the back here, I've got three little almost boxwood looking plants. Those are what's called Yaupon holly, and that is one of the only native to North America plants that is caffeinated. In fact, it is the only native to North America plant that naturally contains caffeine. And it is just like using tea. You can pick the leaves and steep them fresh as a nice bright green tea. You can dry them and grind them up to make a matcha, and the caffeine level is very similar. Pardon my AC unit there, but that's just par for the course in Florida. Just a little extra background noise. So you can also bake these leaves or use some sort of roasting method, just a low heat oven, to create the effect of a black tea. And it has a very similar flavor, very similar caffeine content to a black tea when it's handled in that way. So these are just tiny right now. They're not even a foot tall each one, but as they continue to grow, I'm going to keep pruning them and trimming them and using what I'm cutting off. But then on a young plant, when you clip it frequently, it encourages it to grow out more and to put fresh sprouts and branches, and just to keep replenishing what you've trimmed away. So it stimulates that new growth. So I definitely want to keep using it, but I am obsessed with tea anyway. So having it literally in my own yard is just so exciting. And I had one casualty here. You're not a gardener if you haven't killed a plant. So this is a dotted horse mint. There were two of them, and no, that's not a gravestone. It's just a little birdhouse figurine that I stuck in there. But one of them just didn't have a very good root system. I pulled it out just now, and the plant was large like the one that you see here, but the roots were smaller than my fist. It was just not a very good start of a plant. So I'll get that replaced. I'll put another one in there and just keep going with it. I might put something like an echinacea in there. Now, with that Florida incentive program that I talked about, I do have to maintain the principle of the design and the project and the plant selection for, I think it's 3 to 5 years. And because I'm receiving money back from the county, that they have the right to inspect. I've made an agreement with them that they have the right to inspect, that I'm keeping it up and that I'm just keeping it water friendly. So does it have to be the exact same plant if I lose one? Not necessarily, but it needs to be something in kind. So if I can get my hands on a great echinacea, then I might put that in there. Otherwise, probably another dotted horse mint or something similar. So this one up here is called pennyroyal. It's another one that's just good for the biodiversity, the pollinator, just a nice difference of texture, a nice bright, bold green color. It's a good contrast with the sage across the path there. And this one is sort of a highlight. This is a turf replacement, and it is called matchstick grass or frog fruit. It is a low-growing, spreading, sprawling ground cover, and you can see it's kind of reaching itself way out over here. This one, because it's within the planting bed, I'm going to mostly keep it trimmed back, and I'm going to attempt to propagate the cuttings that I have to spread them throughout my yard so that it will eventually take over the grass that I have here. And one of the reasons in particular that I selected that one, if you look through this poor St. Augustine grass and assortment of weeds, see that tiny little flower? It's kind of blurry. There we go. That is possibly a different variety or species of this plant, but it's the same plant. So I already have a good assortment of this plant growing in my yard around the grass. And this one I think may be a little bit more hardy and prolific than the ones that are in the yard already. So I definitely want to encourage this to keep growing and keep spreading. So moving forward over here, we've got some African blue basil. Now this is a plant that you can eat, you can cook with it, but what I've read online is that it has a lot more of a bitter effect than the Genovese basil or something like that. So some people don't recommend cooking with it, but as long as it's not been raised with a lot of chemical pesticides and things, you absolutely can use it to cook with. It just might not be the same flavor that you're used to from another variety of basil. But I have an herb container on the other side of my house that I'm just gradually getting it established, and I'll share that soon. But that's got more of the traditional basils that I do cook with frequently. But this one, it's great. It is just literally buzzing every time that I come out here. Even now, you can see some little creatures flitting around and enjoying this plant. And a great thing with this one as well, it does self-seed. So even as this plant kind of runs its course and starts to die back, or anything that I want to trim away from it, all of these seeds are going right down into the ground, and I can move out some of the mulch around it and make some room where it will readily grow new plants. Or I can pull those new plants or trim the seeds and propagate them separately, and put them where I want them and share them with friends. It's a lot of great options, but this beautiful light purple color that the tips get is where it gets its name of being a blue color, as far as a gardening color. And speaking of blue, this one is super fun. This is what is called the blue butterfly pea, and it grows like a sweet pea kind of plant, and it will produce a seed pod. I know I've had a few flowers on it already, but I don't see any sign of a pod just yet, and I could be like totally missing it and it's there, but I kind of don't think so. But this is one that has already bloomed and it's starting to dry up. I will pull this flower off in another day or two and take it inside, wash it, and then dry it again, and it makes an amazing blue tea. It's very light, fragrant, herbal kind of tea. No caffeine in this one at all, but if you add any kind of acid to it, it turns purple or almost a pink color, and it's just the coolest thing. It is so fun. So you can mix it with a hibiscus tea. That's enough acid to make the blue color change, or you can put a little bit of lemon in there. I have an old video I might reshare, or when I get a few more flowers I'll make some. But this flower, let me come around the other side. So this one's getting ready to open up here. Just cute little delicate flower. And then this one, very much like a typical sweet pea flower. If you know the scientific name, you know what that shape describes, but we'll not say that at the moment. But this is partly to provide some shade until these trees grow up. The fiddlewood is going to be a small or medium-sized tree and not going to get super tall, but it will provide some shade to the house. And until it gets big enough to start doing that, at least I wanted to give some shade to the air handler unit for the air conditioning. And so this trellis and the vine is my interim solution for helping at least the air that's coming into the unit to be a little bit cooler. And then as it's running the system, it doesn't have to work as hard to get it down to the right temperature to cool the house. So in between sections 1 or 3, we have the rain barrel. Now this thing, I don't think you're going to be able to see it on the video, but this thing is full. And it is seriously just been a few weeks. And the amount of rain that we've had, it has filled up. And I put some plants in here. Some of them are doing great. Some of them not loving it, but I did improve the drainage here. I put a filtered drain down in the base below the soil, and hopefully that will help improve the viability of these plants. So this is what's called a moss rose, also known as purslane, or what is the other name for it? I always forget the third one. Portulaca. I actually remembered. So they are not usually open in the evening. You mostly are going to see them in the early part of the day through the afternoon. But they have, on these two that are a little bit bigger leaf varieties, they have this pretty pink and white flower. The whole plant is edible. Again, you want to know your source. And where I got these from, these two, the pink ones, it is a holistic, natural, native friendly grower and garden center. So I know that I could eat any part of this, and people use it as like an ornamental garnish kind of plant, maybe in a salad, or there's lots of ways you can use it. You can look that up. But purslane, portulaca, or moss rose is the more just decorative version of it. But again, if you know your source and you know how it's been grown and cared for, then it is edible. The whole thing, the stems, the leaves, the flowers, is all edible. So that's kind of fun. You can eat flowers if you want to. And the succulents that I put in here are not loving being so wet, so I might swap them out for something else. But just look at this rain chain. Isn't that so beautiful? Again, that one came from Amazon. It was not that expensive as far as rain chains go, but this thing moves a lot of water. I posted a video recently, and these little holes on the bottom of the chain, that water just pours through there and it spills over the edges, and it's just a beautiful natural sound and just gorgeous to watch. So backing up here into this final section, I'll go back to front on this one. We've got some tropical sage, which is native Florida friendly to our area, and some of it is a nice pure bright white, and some of it is a super sweet pale pink. So these are some of the white ones, and then this one over here, it's just the most delicate pink color. So beautiful plants, and again, they will self-seed. So all of those little dried up flower pods are filled with small seeds. I have collected handfuls of them already. I've scattered some down underneath. I'm not sure if I've got any sprouts going on just yet, but I am continuing to watch for them. My third tree that I added is a cassia, a Bahama cassia, or a Senna privet, and it's another Florida friendly plant. There are varieties of privet that are invasive here. This is not one of those varieties. This one is very Florida friendly, very much a good plant to grow here. And again, it will get to be a medium tree and provide additional shade for the side of our house here, and habitat for different kinds of birds and little creatures, and just a beautiful yellow flower that it puts out. And it's a good one that can also spread and propagate. You can keep it pruned as a hedge, but I do intend to let it grow into a tree. Some more culinary additions here. I've got 3 plants of garlic chives, just little clusters of them here. Use them just like you would a regular chive, or you can use them as a almost a green onion substitute. They got just that mild garlic flavor to that bright oniony chive taste that you're used to. And then 3 of these scrub blueberries. And fun little surprises around the garden. I actually got a pomegranate tree from a local plant exchange, and I took it out of the pot that it was in, planted it in the ground, and I found that for drainage at the bottom of their planter pot, they had put a bunch of rocks, but half of them were painted rocks. So I washed them off, and I've got them hiding little spots around my garden just for a pop of whimsy and fun. But these blueberry bushes, I know that the wildlife have been loving the little bitty berries that are on them. Let's see if there's any left at the moment. Here's a few. So there's a few of the small berries. They're not ripe yet, but the squirrels don't care. And yet there's still some little flowers and things coming in. This is continuing to grow. Beautiful plant as it grows in. The new growth has that gorgeous blush color. It is just such a beautiful plant. And these are a sort of a dwarf variety of blueberry, so they're only going to get a few feet tall. And next to last, got one more to come back to. Have another patch. This was, I want to say 4-inch pots, 2 or 3 of these frog fruit plants, the matchstick grass. And look how much they've spread. This has barely been just over a month, and it has already spread so well. And I just keep combing it towards the lawn because I don't really want it to fill in around the blueberries. I want it to take over this old turf that we have and just really provide an alternative lawn that doesn't need supplemental watering. It does not need fertilizers. It won't need much for weed control herbicides. I won't use weed control herbicides, but like even it will tend to choke out the other weeds. Now, some might be a little bit stubborn and I might have to go in and pull them out by hand, but for the most part, once this gets really well established, it will just take over the yard and it will thrive and be great. So we don't have to mow in here. I mentioned that my plan in the rest of this side of the yard is to eventually put in some vegetable beds, and this can grow in around the beds and won't interfere with anything, but we won't have to get out here with a lawnmower all the time. So the final plant that I've got, it's a Florida native, and it is a pollinator magnet. This is the coral honeysuckle vine, and it has already put out 1, 2, 3 sets of flowers, and then the 4th one's blooming now. Pardon my camera angles here, but just beautiful. They've got that kind of coral orange center to them, and then that nice bright orangish red tubular flower. It's not like the Georgia honeysuckles. Those japonicas are invasive here. This one is native. This one is absolutely Florida friendly. And again, this was a very small plant when we put it in. It's climbing and growing and just loving its life, and I am loving having it here in my yard. It will eventually cover this arch up and over towards the house and I'll just make sure that it doesn't take over the gutters, but besides that, it's just going to be the nice little focal point from the street, from where people come up and they can see through my chain link fence. The front of the section is chain link, the back is a vinyl fence, but this arch, I can't get any further back, but it just provides a welcoming effect, makes this pine straw make sense. Now, this is practical reasoning for putting down pine straw up against the house instead of putting maybe a hedge or something. What if something goes wrong with your air conditioner? What if we need to get our windows replaced? What if we've got a gutter crew coming in next week? They need to be able to get to the structure, to the house. And any kind of large plants that you put up against your house, those roots have a risk of going into your foundation and potentially compromising the structural integrity of your home. So most people, I'll say a lot of developers will put out landscaping that looks great when it's tiny, And then as soon as the house is sold and homeowners take over, get settled in, that's when the problems start. So those plants don't stay tiny forever. So picking the right place for a plant that gets large, or picking the right plant for the space that you have, is the first foundational principle of any smart landscape design. And that's exactly what we've tried to do here. And I'm so thankful to the Pinellas County Environmental Services and the IFIX Extension Desk at the Florida Botanical Gardens. Their team has been so encouraging and supportive through this whole process. They provided a whole series of training on how to make this work and how to plan it out, how to design it. I did hire some assistants with the installation because there was a time crunch, and I knew that I would struggle to get it done quick enough, but I can maintain it myself. So I had Amanda at Living Roots Eco Design and Plant Nursery. I think I'm saying that right. I'll tag her in the video. Did my design, did my installation, and has been so helpful and supportive through this whole process. I'll get her out here for another tour and update soon, but just cannot say enough kudos and thanks to Amanda and her team. And thank you to all of you for following along already in this journey. As I hear the Coast Guard going over, I love how they make their nighttime patrols just before sunset. Got a gorgeous sunset starting up over there. Just beautiful colors. And then, where are they at? There goes the Coast Guard, going out to make sure that nobody's in distress at the beach before it gets too dark to find them. So, a little noisy, but kudos to them for the excellent job that they do. So again, thank you so much for following along in this journey, and I cannot wait to share more and more of my gardening experience with you, and just to really learn together. I don't have all the answers, and it's always going to be an experiment. You try, you play with things, you just experiment, and some things work, some things don't. Sometimes you figure out what you did wrong and you're able to adjust and try again, but other times you discover that something else is better suited for the spot that you need. So that's where I'm at. I am exploring and just loving having this garden space, and it was a blank canvas starting out, coming now to just this beautiful variety of life, and it gives life through the nectar, through the fruits and the herbs and things that are grown in amongst the other plants. It's just a happy place, and I hope that your garden is your happy place. I hope that you take time to enjoy it, and that's kind of becoming my slogan and my sign off on my videos, is just make some time to enjoy your garden. And even if you're not really doing a task, I pulled like 2 weeds when I came out here, but it was really about seeing it and experiencing it and feeling the plants as they're growing, and just smelling the fragrances and seeing the different kinds of bugs even that are on the plants, the butterflies and the wasps and bees, and just loving the life that is coming into this yard. And I love that you're following along with me. I am so thankful for each of you. Please continue to watch my videos, hit a comment or a like if something is interesting to you. Please share and subscribe to my page on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Trying to build up my audience so that we can just have more fun in this journey together. Thanks again. I look forward to sharing more with you soon, and take some time to enjoy your garden.